If you haven't challenged yourself for a while, or maybe you've never challenged yourself in this way where you're going to create every day, trust the process of your learning. Trust the process of your messy muddle parts. When you get into that state of, oh, I really don't like anything I do, that's probably the point where you really need to keep on making, and that's where your breakthroughs happen, if that makes sense. I'm blown away by what a week can do. For the past few months, I've been on a bit of a mission, changing everything from my eating habits to organising and decluttering my spaces. It's been all about trying to simplify and improve my life, one little step at a time. And recently, I decided to take on a new 7-day challenge to see what else I could unlock. And honestly, what happened next surprised me more than anything else that I've done so far. If you're curious about making real change, beyond just, say, organising a drawer and eating more healthily, this might be a sign this video might be for you. I'll take you through the ups and downs of each day and the incredible unexpected shifts this one small habit has brought into my life. You can fit it and adapt it to any creative habit. It doesn't have to be a sketchbook or artwork. So let me take you back to my initial hesitations. I was a little nervous at first whether I had the discipline to make it through. So maybe last time you saw me, we started this sketchbook together and we did a few pages. And also another page. I think that was the last video. And then I've also since then ordered a bigger A4 watercolour sketchbook. And today's little adventure was this one. Is it going to focus, please? Yeah, so really experimental and loose, quite wild and free with the colours as well. In fact, if you say the words wild and free, it does actually sort of get you in that kind of space. A really useful practice to get rid of your rules. Think outside the box, get rid of the box if you like, and just go for it. Because, you know, at the end of the day, what have you got to lose? So you might as well have a really good play, experiment, explore, get curious about all your art supplies and colour combinations. And what happens if I do this or that or the other? The only way you're going to find out the answers to that is to actually have a go at it, isn't it? Remember what I said in the last video, which was you are not going to like every page, but as long as you are making, you know, remember the quote from, was it Picasso, who said, inspiration exists, but it has to find you working. You have to keep going, you have to keep making. And it doesn't have to necessarily be art, it can be, you know, any creative endeavour indeed, but you just have to keep trying. One of my patrons had made a comment which really made me think today about she'd bought some expensive watercolour plate paper, but it just felt too posh to use because she didn't feel like her skills and ability level was up to the level of using the paper. But I said to her, you know, if you use the posh paper, the expensive paper, you are going to improve. Your skills and techniques are going to improve on that paper. If you use your good brushes, use your good paper. This is a 300 GSM watercolor paper, cold press, and the book is by, if anyone's interested, Fox and Willow. And I'm not sponsored or affiliated or anything like that. This is completely my authentic review of the paper. I don't usually like cold press paper as well, but I do like this paper. It's taken a lot of, you know, intense layers, so it's done really, really well. It's done me proud, if you like. So I'm happy with that, and I'm also happy with the Hahnumule, I don't know how to say that one, paper as well, which was in this one. So again, not sponsored or affiliated, this is just my personal opinion. So my advice would be, use your posh stuff, use your expensive paper and brushes, and have a play. And that is part of developing your abilities and skills. I know when I switched to better paint from a budget range to a professional range of paint, I noticed a big difference because it was much more highly pigmented, so I was able to get the colours I wanted in mixes. I didn't have to fight so hard to get the contrasts and things like that. So it really helped me by actually upping that. I'm not saying that you need really expensive art supplies. I'm just saying that we all have drawers and cupboards and shelves with things that we don't use. And what's the point of that? So use what you have, including your posh stuff. Sorry to be bossy, but I think it's really important that we enjoy it. It's supposed to be playful. I wanted to see if I could art every day. I wanted to push myself a little bit more than that. So I wanted to do something that was a little bit experimental each day, and to push myself a little bit further, maybe out of my comfort zone than I would normally go, if that makes sense, because I wanted to see what came out. If you're just doing the safe stuff all the time, you're never going to discover new outcomes, new surprises, unexpected results, if you like. And then you might have a curiosity on a certain direction, and it'll take you down a path that, you know, you really couldn't have planned. And so that's the beauty of creating all the time.
If I'm really honest, I definitely had some initial hesitations before starting. I was a little bit sceptical how just 7 days was going to change something tangible for me, but I was also really excited, a little bit nervous, and definitely curious to see how I would go. When we reflect on our initial emotions, it does show us how far we've come. It shows our growth, doesn't it? I think it's interesting to hear how hesitant or doubtful others can be at the beginning of a challenge, because that can inspire other people to see how the experience can transform your mindset. I knew there were going to be mental health and wellbeing benefits, but I didn't know quite how far that would go. And after a few days, I noticed big mental shifts very early on in the process, and I would say about day 3 and 4. This habit had already become a mental reset. So as well as advancing my art skills and techniques, and seeing some evolving transformations in my own style, it also was a huge tool for self-care. And I've said it here before, and I'll say it again, that the simple, small practices can improve mental health significantly, in a life-changing way. I'll talk more later about the mental health, emotional and well-being benefits from engaging in a creative task regularly. And it could be drawing and painting like me, or it could be writing or crafting, or indeed any other creative endeavour. That's what I meant at the beginning of the video, that it doesn't just have to be an art challenge. So apart from the benefits to my brain and mental health and well-being, I noticed other personal transformations too. Even just committing to 7 days has helped me build self-discipline. And there were days where I wanted to fall off track. And in actual fact, I wasn't perfect. I did miss a day. And that could have potentially encouraged me to quit or doubt myself. But the more I pushed myself, especially to do things out of my comfort zone and out of my usual creative repertoire, my urge to continue grew, my discipline grew, it spilled over into other areas of my life, and it just made me more intentional and committed. I had a snowball effect of the small wins, and even when the artwork didn't turn out quite how I wanted, and we'll get to that because I did have days like that, I still had the fact that each day I completed the task and I had a small boost of accomplishment. These small wins stacked up, and that created more motivation to keep going. If you like the idea of joining a creative online community, I opened my own back in the lockdown days. It's now evolved into an inspiring and supportive community on Patreon, and you can join for free or as little as £1 a month, which is like my tip jar. I post monthly journaling prompts, tutorials, studio hangouts and a podcast, plus all sorts of other behind the scenes content. I'll leave a link in the description below so you can take a peek. Now I've seen my progress over just 1 week, I feel completely empowered to tackle other goals and continue on this one. I think what's amazed me most is the fact that in just 7 days you can literally change your world. I feel like I've unlocked some mental blocks as well as some artistic blocks. And some of my artistic blocks were there and I didn't even realise they were. We talk about a lot, don't we, finding our unique creative style, and I think sometimes we forget to notice that that evolves over time, and doing something like this 7-day challenge has really accelerated the realisation process for me. So by that I mean, I've noticed things in my own artwork with new directions that I didn't know that I even wanted to explore, and that only happened by getting out of my comfort zone and doing things I wouldn't normally do. And I have to say that happened later on in the process, so I'll share more about that later on.
yes, you know, I'm creating a lot, but I felt like I could be doing an everyday challenge to myself. So this wasn't an out there challenge, if you like. It was more of an internal, personal challenge. But I haven't set myself a challenge for quite a number of years, and I really see the beauty of it. So let me catch you up with the artwork then. So obviously you've seen the pages in this book, obviously swatching there, and then realistic-ish colours here, something a little bit outlandish here with the colour choices. And then I don't know, she looks very blue, but she was my favourite so far in this book because her subtleties were shining through, if you like. And I have a little bit of a trouble with being subtle. Did I say that right? Yes, I have a little bit of trouble being subtle because I'm quite heavy-handed with my contrasts, and it can quite often turn into an overworked situation. And so with something like watercolours, I needed to slow down my process, and so I felt I did that with that one. I was finding the A5 size a little bit restrictive for the way I work, and so I ordered an A4 one, not sponsored or affiliated, but I will tell you it's by Fox and Willow, Watercolour Cold Press 300 GSM paper, so it's quite a heavy paper. If I can just, I can't show you how heavy, but you can kind of hear that, can't you? And so what I thought I would do was do some more experiments. And so I'm not done with this page yet, but I went in with her some crazy colours. That was the first page. So that was day 2 of my challenge. And then on day 3, I did a monochromatic study, this one. And I'm going to do some more layers on it, but I just wanted to keep her one colour and do a tonal values study and see if I could get a little bit more precise than what I was getting, if you like. So I'm on day 4 today. I thought it was 5, but I think it's 4. Today I've been doing, let me show you this one, another watercolour. I don't want to, the light's a bit funny at the moment, so another watercolour study. I'm kind of thinking I wanted to do something a bit fairy, a bit mermaidy. I'm feeling some mermaids coming on. I do paint mermaids from time to time. I usually go for the fairies, but often I paint the mermaids intermittently. And I just felt like I wanted something that could potentially be more mermaidy. And then I've just drawn out another one as well, which I'll probably do tomorrow, so that will be day 5 of the challenge, if you like. But yeah, that's where I'm at so far. I've also drawn out another one on a piece of paper. She is another version of this little lady. I tend to call them little ladies when I haven't named them. James will name them for me in the interim until I actually give them a name. But normally I'll have a dream or something like that where, you know, the name will come to me. She'll sort of visit me in a dream and I'll become, you know, a little bit more in communication with the little ladies, if you like. But you'll have to let me know in the comments if you... What do I call it? I kind of call it, I commune with my girls or my little ladies. And I am going to start doing some older studies as well, so some older women. And people say to me, you know, why haven't you done any yet? And I haven't not planned to, but they just haven't come up yet. But I feel that coming up as I've, you know, become a grandmother. And maybe I'll do some sort of young studies as well with my watercolours in my sketchbooks as well of, yeah, granddaughters kind of face, because obviously I'm completely besotted by that, and she's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, this is what I did today. What was I saying then? I do get sidetracked quite a lot, so I do apologise. More than usual at the moment, I don't know why. Anyway, yes, you'll have to let me know in the comments if you commune with your artwork, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who does, but I do tend to have dreams, as I say, and then I will know a little bit more about the characters that come out, a little bit of why they've come out. Perhaps they have a little message for me. Often they do, and I journal around that, so that's all interlinked with my journaling. And then I get to find out their name at some point, but I can't push that process. It just likes to, you know, come out in its own time. So that all depends. And I think that's it for today. So I am going to pack up, clean my brushes and go home, and then come in for day 5 tomorrow, and then I'll come back and talk to you. Yes. think as well, what I can say at this point is that if you haven't tried a challenge or you haven't challenged yourself for ages in whichever area you need, so it could be with maybe an exercise habit that you want to bring in, or something that you want to let go of. We've been doing a lot of letting go in here, haven't we, recently? I've completely overhauled my diet and gone into a lot more healthy eating style, and I feel a lot better for it. I hope you feel a little bit inspired to perhaps start your own challenge, because if you haven't challenged yourself for a while, or maybe you've never challenged yourself in this way where you're going to create every day, and it might be, I'm going to divide my sketchbook page into 4 and I'm going to do a little quadrant every day. It depends how much time you've got. So you don't have to do, make it this absolutely massive, scary challenge. But I think that sticking to it, being true to it, even if you end up with one of your quadrants that you really, really don't like, that doesn't matter. That's irrelevant completely. The point is that you do it and you work your way through it. And, some of these paintings that I'm doing and watercolor processes that I'm doing, I've not liked, but I've learned so much from, and then that has fed into the next ones that come up. So please feel encouraged by that. I want you to feel, that you have permission to make some bad art if that's what wants to come out. I mean, some elements of this one, for example, I went in so heavy, like really early, and it wasn't a reflection of my subtleties that I was enjoying in this little lady. So I really wanted to go in with this one much more subtle, and I'm much happier with that one. So I think that's happened as well because I did a little practice with the monochromatic study. So it all has a place, I think, is what I'm trying to say. So trust the process of your learning, trust the process of your messy muddle parts. When you get into that state of, I really don't like anything I do, that's probably the point where you really need to keep on making. And that's where your breakthroughs happen, if that makes sense. So you just push yourself that little bit more in that way. And I think that's where the challenge comes in, because every day I'm coming in and I'm doing a focus on this sort of watercoloring process. I'm not a watercolor professional by any means. I'm not an expert in watercolor, but I do believe in watercolor in the sense of, I don't feel you have to be an expert to create some really beautiful results. And I think that is what I love about watercolor, and that's what I love about sharing my process and teaching my process online. So don't be put off just because, like, for example, watercolor is well known for being a difficult medium to work with, and the reason for that is it's really difficult to control, and it is, but you don't have to do everything perfectly in order to end up with some results. You can do some really interesting layering processes and happy accidents, and exploring. It's a lovely medium to get curious about because there's so much you can play with. Anyway, I think you can see how passionate I am about watercolor, but for now I will leave it there, and I will see you tomorrow. Yes. So this is day 5, and let's just check the sound is on. I think it's good to get real at this point as well. It's very easy, isn't it, to sort of watch something like a YouTube video on a challenge and see someone, in the space of 20 minutes or so, doing a week or a month challenge. There is more to it than that. There are more obstacles in life, we know, don't we, than that. And I have to admit, if we're being really real and authentic in here, that I've struggled to get in this morning, and it's now about 10:30 in the morning. So already I feel like I'm behind in my day, behind in life. We know that's a common feeling, isn't it? And I think it's because, it's like on my computer this morning, this is what I've been doing actually, is closing all my tabs that are open, because I feel that's exactly reflecting what life is about at the moment, or what it feels like so much. There's so many tabs open. Do you know what I mean? You'll have to let me know in the comments. But I just spent an hour and it just disappeared like that, closing tabs, because I have so many tabs open. And I'm having a digital declutter at the moment, which feels really, really good. Goes side by side with my physical, practical declutter in the studio and a little bit at home as well. It just felt really, really good to close all those tabs. So now I feel a little bit clearer and cleaner in my head, although I do feel a little bit late to the studio. But it doesn't matter. The point is showing up. I've said that many times in here, haven't I? So if you've been here before, you'll know. I got home last night and I do what I usually do, which is to review, you know, my daily art. So I have a look at it and a think about it. Sometimes I take my sketchbooks home, and sometimes I take a photograph and then I can look at it later. I put it on my computer so I've got it on a bigger screen, and I can review my work and assess it, critique it a little bit if you like, think about steps I want to do for next time to move me forwards, because that's what my aim is, to move myself forwards in my own art skills, techniques and practice. You might have completely different aims, and that's completely fine as well, but that is part of my creative process, if you like. I like to have that review evaluation stage and thinking about next steps. I then finished up a post on my Patreon, which is my art journaling monthly prompt, and I'm doing a few little quirky prompts at the moment. We're doing a little bit about everyday clothing and identity at the moment, so it's kind of like a dressing up box part 2, and if you go back a few videos on YouTube, you'll see all about that. So if you're interested in that kind of topic, I'll maybe post it up there or something, link, or down in the box. Suffice to say, we do a few kind of quirky journaling things, and yeah, it's really, really fun because it's in community. Anyway, what I was going to say about that was I tend to do that kind of thing in the evening. So really my closing of the tabs situation has messed me up a little bit, because I would normally do that in the evening, and then I can get into kind of admin brain and not mess with my art brain, if that makes sense. So my right hemisphere, my creative brain. I do believe that both hemispheres of the brain come into play when we are, you know, doing our creative endeavours, but I do like to dip into the magic and the unexpected of the right hemisphere. So if you're a creative like me, you'll probably know what I mean. Anyway, the bottom line of what I'm trying to say, in a roundabout way, which is my usual fashion, so I do apologise if I, you know, go off on these little tangents, but there always is a purpose, I promise, was to say that we have to get real with our lives, and sometimes we do things in the sort of wrong order, or we're a little bit late to the party, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Show up, do your little something anyway, and do your best with what you've got, because at the end of the day, that's all any of us can do, isn't it? So I think it's often useful to see, you know, how artists use their palette. And I am just cleaning out a couple of the wells of my watercolour palette here. And I think I'm going to move this orange. So it's in the wrong place for me. So I'm just going to get rid of that orange there. And then I've got a workable situation. I'm not going to clean all of it because, well, I can use all the stuff in the wells that I've taken from here, and I can, you know, use some of the mixing mud, if you like, from yesterday's session. So you don't have to start from scratch and you don't have to waste it. So I really love that. I've got a couple of jars of water, my brush is ready, some paper towel, and I've also been drawing in my book. Hang on a sec. See if I can hold you steady-ish here, but I wanted a young face and then contrast doing that with an older face as well. So that was on my list of to-do. So I thought, well, I'll draw a couple of faces out, and then I've got them ready. And I've used more of this brown crayon today and got rid of quite a lot of the graphite as well. And you'll also notice that this one's quite a big face compared to, say, this one. So I can go into more detail in the eyes and lips, for example. And then this one, she's much smaller. So I'm doing a variety of sizes as well. Anyway, I thought I would just, you know, fill you in on what I'm doing, because it's often quite interesting, isn't it? Rather than just seeing someone's desk, you want to kind of know what's going on around them, you know. Well, I do anyway.
Things were going really well until I hit day 5 and 6. And then, of course, I had some difficult days within that. Up to that point, things had been flowing really nicely, thank you very much. and I was happy with my progress and happy with my results. Happy with how much I felt I was improving and learning. And I'm not sure why I hit a wall with this particular face. I don't know if it was because I jumped up in size, or maybe I was just feeling very tense when I started her. I should have maybe had a yoga stretch and danced about and exercised my wrists and hands a little bit more. I think that would have helped. Something clicked in my brain. I wasn't concentrating in the same way. I wasn't feeling as loose. I mean, in a way, of course, I was expecting that not every day would go really well and there would be some difficult days. But I just felt really frustrated and I took it really personally that things were not going my way on these 2 days. I have to be honest as well that on both day 5 and 6, there were times where I just wanted to give up, put my paintbrushes down and go home. I think because I'd challenged myself to this 7-day challenge, and because it was such a short challenge, I felt really intensely purposeful about sticking to it. And pushing through the tough moments made the habit feel even more rewarding and taught me about my patience, my resilience and self-compassion. Because even though on these days when I felt like I was making really terrible bad art, I also had another voice in my head being soft and giving myself grace. It's okay, Wendy, we all have our bad days. We all have days where we don't achieve what we want to achieve and things don't turn out the way we wish they do. And I knew advancing my skills in watercolours, particularly portraits, was not going to be an easy ride. And that was part of the challenge. So I just had to get over it and push through. And I'm really glad I did, because if I hadn't, then I wouldn't have had the realisations and the miraculous enlightenment that I experienced on the 7th day. I think even in the ups and downs, there was some surprising and positive ripple effects. I hadn't actually anticipated that I would have more energy, and I had more inspiration and a positive outlook on life in general. I really hadn't expected that. Around day 3 and 4, I started feeling like I couldn't wait to come in and paint. I couldn't wait to get to the studio. And then at the other end of the day, I didn't want to go home. I was actually having to nudge myself to go home, even though I felt really tired, and I don't like driving home in the dark either. But I just felt so creatively inspired with so many new ideas to try. And I was learning so much and improving so much with every layer of every sketch. Allowing myself to explore and play and try new things. Even on the days that things weren't really going my way, I still found nuances, changes and adaptations to my style that I really liked, new directions I wanted to go. So I had that new incentive, that new vigour to get up in the morning and get at it, if that makes sense. About halfway through day 6, I decided to let that other one go. My little green tree sprite asked me to turn the page and let her be. And I started taking steps of doing things I haven't done before, trying new things, doing things out of my comfort zone. Knowledge of drawing and painting older faces isn't really in my repertoire. There's creases, shadows, crevices, all sorts of things that I'm not used to. So I decided to try something completely new, completely out of my comfort zone. And because I wasn't able to do things that I usually do in my usual flow and my usual order, it changed the way I was thinking. It changed the order of my decision making. And so I think this was the point that really sort of shook me out of that state of frustration. This beautiful wise crone was showing me the way, and I was listening. It was a truly wonderful lesson.
So I don't think I've talked to you today, so I'm just doing a little check-in now. So I'm 6 days in and I'm noticing some big changes, which is actually surprised me when it's only 6 days. One of the biggest changes I've noticed is my willingness to continue when I feel like things are going wrong. They're going a bit pear-shaped, or they're not going in the way that I want them to go. I feel hesitant to say going wrong because I don't believe, that can happen in a sketchbook, because it's a place to explore, get curious and have experiments. So in that sense, you can't go wrong. You're just finding things out. What happens if I do this, this, or this, etc. So, but I was having trouble with this one, for example. So this page a few days ago, I really loved. I felt like I'd kind of mastered the lighter touch. I have a big tendency to go in too strong, too contrasty, too fast. And I think with the medium like watercolors, it's not very forgiving in that sense. So I ended up really not liking this page. And so I spent, if I could just wiggle round, yeah. So I spent quite a long time trying to get myself to like this page, if you like. Anyway, I almost gave up and thought, oh well, you know, I'll just leave it for today. But because I've been doing this sketchbook challenge type thing, I, you know, completely self-inflicted. I've put this on myself, but, you know, I have to say it's been so rewarding, so beneficial. I'm definitely going to do it again and continue it for longer as well. But I've done another double spread today. I wanted to practice an older face, and I wanted to do something from my imagination on this side. So this one, I wanted to do like a younger face. She's like a forest pixie. And this one I was just trying to be really loose with. So that's where I'm at so far. I'm not going to finish today. The light's going and my eyes are getting tired. So I'm going to, you know, give myself some grace, because the other thing I've noticed is that I'm having to really nudge myself out of the studio, and it's getting dark sort of about 5 o'clock now here, and I really don't like driving home in the dark. I'm not that confident. So yeah, I've had to sort of scootle myself out a couple of nights driving home in the dark. And the other thing I'm realizing is that I'm getting really tired. So it's happy tired though. It's not like an exhausted kind of tired. It's a real happy tired. And I go to bed thinking of my girls, and then I wake up thinking of my girls, my little ladies, and you know, they've all got flower crowns as well, which is was not intentional, but yeah, why not? In fact, hang on a sec, I could do it too. So I've got a little flower crown to draw. Yeah, I've got a little bit of a, you know, flower crown obsession. Anyway, suffice to say, I need to go and recharge my batteries. And then I think for this video, I'm going to do the 7 days. So by the time you've watched this, I've probably done a few more pages as well. But I'm going to come back in tomorrow and do like the final page, because I think tomorrow we'll make 7. And yeah, I'll push this one a little bit further. The thing is about Sketchbook as well, you don't have to finish, so I can move on, you know. I mean, I really pushed this one to its limits, if you like, but I'm trying to not overwork things as well. So if I leave things a little bit unfinished, that's really good for me, especially if I can go home and percolate and then come back and have a look at her. But yeah, I've been going to sleep thinking of them, waking up thinking of them, thinking about my next steps, where I'd like to go. It feels like it's invigorated my work. I feel like I've got new curiosities down different pathways that I wasn't expecting to take. And I feel like I'm exploring not only watercolour and then sort of some more sort of formal kind of drawings and portraits and that, and studies and that kind of thing, but then moving into my own style, doing what I've learned into my own style and transferring all the information I've got into that, and then seeing what new things come out of that, if that makes sense. So that's where I feel the excitement, if you like. Anyway, I just thought I'd do a little check-in because I don't think I've talked to you today. So yeah, I think the word challenge can sound a little bit off-putting, but please don't be put off. I think it's good to challenge ourselves. You know, I've been challenging myself for the last 6 months or so with changes I've been making and new habits that I have been, you know, practicing in my life, like, you know, eating habits, decluttering, organizing habits. You know, I tidy up in here most days now before I go home. Not completely tidy, but I straighten it up so it's welcoming for when I come in. You know, I've reset my spirit, my creative spirit, from doing all these little seemingly teeny tiny steps. I also feel it's the teeny tiny things that maybe we feel are insignificant that really matter most and can harvest the biggest changes. I'm blown away by what a week can do for a start. So don't delay. We're all creative beings and we all have a creative energy that needs to come out, whether that be artwork or something else. Get yourself a sketchbook or the equivalent of and start exploring regularly. Yes.
So I didn't do my 7 days perfectly. I did miss a day. I needed a day off after day 6, so I had one. I had a catch up with admin, practical stuff, and I also felt tired, so I needed a rest. But I went back in to do day 7. There was no beating myself up, just straight back into it. Remember the Picasso quote, inspiration exists, but it has to find you working. So I had that in the back of my head as well. This is the point as well where I truly realised the benefits of getting out of your comfort zone. I mean, perhaps it's an overused phrase, but if you really get out of your comfort zone and you really allow yourself to play and try some new things, things that scare you, which I was doing here, I was letting go of the drawing part and just beginning to paint on a blank page. No drawing, no reference material, just me and my paintbrush and my blank page. And I also wanted to really let the watercolour do its thing, have the wet into wet and have a play, allowing the watercolour to do its thing, yes, but also trying to get it in the right places so that it would do what I wanted it to do as well in part. I wanted it to look like a face, not just looking like a blob of watercolour on the page and me mixing colour swatches. But by allowing myself to try these new things, it speeded up the realisations of some very unexpected directions I wanted to take my artwork moving forwards. So now at this point I feel even more motivated to push myself even further out of my comfort zones. I will document my progress on Instagram, maybe in the stories or reels, so you can follow my process there. And if you're doing a challenge, feel free to tag me. It's so important for us creatives to have that creative community, and we are in this together. I feel like now that 7 days was just the beginning, but I discovered on my journey that it was just too beneficial to stop. These small short-term challenges are really impactful, and I know this one's going to lead to some long-term changes. The changes I've been doing up to this point with changing my diet into sort of a much more healthy lifestyle, and also the environment where I've been decluttering and organising my spaces, especially my studio over the last 5 or 6 months. And you might have seen that my recent videos have documented all that.
It is the official final day of this challenge, although I am going to continue. But for day 7, this is day 7, I wanted to do something completely different, really experimental, and just really working wet into wet without drawing first and just to see what would happen. And she's still drying. This is the little face that came out, and you can see it's a completely different quality that you get out of the watercolours. I really suggest that you have a go at some different approaches to watercolour or whatever medium or even creative endeavour that you're doing, because it teaches you so much more. And you know, it's like picking up a pen, isn't it, to draw with rather than a pencil. You can't erase. So it's the same with this. Drawing with a paintbrush, it's not the same, and I only allowed myself to use my bigger brushes and my, you know, rather than going in with my teeny tiny brush, that one. It was a challenge within the challenge, if that makes sense, and I think that's really important as well, because maybe you start to get comfortable where you're at, doing the same thing every day, and we've got to remember we've got to push those edges a little bit, just a touch, in order to feel a little bit of uncertainty, feel a little bit insecure. That's where we're going to find the new stuff. So it's a scary place, if that makes sense, but you've got to push those edges a little bit. Anyway, that's what I thought I would do today. I kind of got comfortable in what I was doing and, you know, doing my thing in my style. And that's great, don't get me wrong, but have some days where you really do something a little bit outside of your normal box. It is a sketchbook after all, and as we said in the last video, call it what you like to take the pressure off. And so I like to say it's an ideas book. I think that's a really lovely way to describe a sketchbook or journal, because it's going to record all our ideas. So that includes our experiments, and it includes things that go wrong or not to our liking.
I've been really surprised and amazed how 7 days can have such a big impact. This is now going to be part of my creative routine, and if in future I feel like I'm in a little bit of a rut or a creative block or a comfy space, or I'm not feeling completely inspired to keep working, I'm definitely going to repeat this 7-day challenge. And the pushing myself completely out of my comfort zone aspect is something I'm going to bring into my everyday practice from now on. I feel more excited and eager to keep going. You'll have to let me know in the comments if you've tried a shorter term challenge and what realisations that brought for you. Or maybe you're on the verge of just starting one and you feel a little bit anxious and nervous, so you can jot down your hesitations and we'll support you in this lovely community. I think for anyone who might be feeling a bit stuck, just like I did before starting, the most wonderful conclusion and revelation that's come out is that starting small can lead to meaningful changes. And this challenge has helped me realise how accessible self-improvement can really be. You know, I've been deep decluttering my studio for the past 5-6 months, and it took me a good few months to notice improvements with my diet as well. Those things took time. They needed my consistency and more longevity for me to see results. This was amazingly fast, super fun, and highly rewarding. So if you're on a challenge or you're about to start a challenge right now, good luck on your quest, your personal journey. Make sure you notice and journal about even the smallest changes and see what a 7-day challenge can lead to for your own transformative results. Good luck out there, and don't forget to enjoy the process.
The last time I saw you, emergency vehicle, sorry. Of course, as soon as I put the camera on, there's an emergency vehicle.